If you thought pastors cannot make billions, think again. There are pastors out there living like royalty with net worths in the billions. But how did they amass such incredible fortunes? And more importantly, should they? These are the richest pastors in the world. Number 8. Bishop David Oyedepo. In the beginning of his journey, he was preaching to a small group of devoted believers in a Nigerian church that was quite small. After some time has passed, he is now the owner of an enterprise that is worth $200 million. Over 65 countries are now served by his Living Faith Bible Church, which is more commonly referred to as Winners Chapel. To do so is not merely to propagate the gospel, rather, it is to dominate the entire globe. But Oyedepo is not the only one involved in this sacred enterprise. In the beginning of his ministry, Kenneth Copeland, another spiritual superstar, had nothing more than a Bible and a dream. There is a fleet of private jets in his possession, and his net worth is so enormous that it will make your head spin. We're talking about $550 million, folks. Do you know what their secret is? There is more to it than just preaching. These individuals are masters of business leadership. They have transformed their ministries into multifaceted organizations that have more sources of revenue than the Amazon River. We are discussing educational institutions, academic institutions, publishing organizations, and media networks. Bakeries, gas stations, and even retail malls are among the businesses that Oyedepo has owned and operated. That's what we mean by diversification. However, this is where things start to become really interesting. The pastors in question are not merely constructing churches, rather they are establishing global brands. The art of employing various forms of media and technology to disseminate their message to a wide audience has been perfected by them. You name it, they are on anything: television shows, radio broadcasts, online platforms, and everything else. As if they have a direct connection to both heaven and Silicon Valley, it's really incredible. Oyedepo's Living Faith Church is a good example. At this point, it has grown to become one of the most influential denominations in Nigeria, with tentacles that extend all over the world. And what about Copeland? And he's not just preaching. He has a media empire that would make some of the most powerful people in Hollywood green with envy. However, let us not forget that these individuals did not begin their careers as spiritual tycoons. One sermon at a time, they constructed their empires from the ground up into the present day. On the other hand, it seems as though they took the phrase "faith can move mountains" to its logical conclusion and decided to move mountains of money instead. Amazingly, these ministries have been expanding at such a rapid rate. Their actions have progressed from the distribution of collection plates to the passage of legislation in certain nations. More than just spiritual leaders, they are also thought leaders, influencers, and, let's face it, very sophisticated business people. They are no longer just spiritual leaders. However, the money that these pastors possess on earth tells a different picture than the heavenly riches that they preach about. Have you ever pondered what a man of God would do with a couple of $100 million? It is possible that the response will destroy your trust in the efficacy of prayer alone. The astonishing net worth of $550 million that Kenneth Copeland possesses enables him to lead a life that is anything but straightforward. This preacher of prosperity does not merely talk about blessings. Rather, he personally exemplifies them in the most extravagant ways that can possibly be imagined. Copeland's private jet fleet is not merely for show. Rather, it is a representation of the extraordinary success he has achieved. Not your typical private aircraft, these flying fortresses are not like any other. These cutting-edge gadgets are so advanced that even the most seasoned chief executive officers would be green with delight. However, the extravagant lifestyle that Copeland leads does not end at 30,000 feet. His homes on Earth are rather remarkable in their own right. We are discussing luxurious houses that are so large that they may easily be mistaken for countries of a smaller size. This is not merely a collection of residences. Rather, it is a monument to affluence, filled with every convenience that one could ever desire, and most likely a few that you have never even heard of before. Following closely behind is Joel Osteen, who is also a well-known figure in the realm of prosperity preaching. The fact that he has a mansion in Houston that is worth $10.5 million is evidence of his teachings on abundance. It is not simply a house. Rather, it is a large estate that exudes success from every inch of its property that has been meticulously maintained. Osteen's residence is more akin to a five-star resort than it is to a simple home, due to its imposing exterior and opulent amenities. However, hold on, there is more. Benny Hinn, who has a net worth of $45 million, is not without experience when it comes to the more refined aspects of life. Hinn, who is famous for his miracle crusades, appears to have performed a few miracles himself with regard to his own financial situation. His property portfolio is such that it reads like a luxury real estate magazine, with high-end residences dispersed all over the world. In addition, Hinn, much like his contemporaries who preach affluence, is not a fan of flying on public planes. Rather, he prefers to travel on private jets. The idea of being blessed is taken to an entirely new level by Jesse Duplantis, who is currently enjoying a cool $50 million worth of wealth. It would be embarrassing for a rock star to see his spending habits. The slogan, "God provides," appears to have been taken fairly literally by Duplantis, as evidenced by his collection of fashionable outfits and expensive automobiles. The modest existence that one might anticipate from a man of the cloth is not even close to being able to describe his way of life. Let's move on to the next topic, which is called the elephant in the room, or, if you prefer, the private jet on the tarmac. The utilization of private aircraft by these preachers has caused more than a few eyebrows to be raised. When it comes to his fleet of flying fortunes, Kenneth Copeland in particular has been subjected to a tremendous amount of criticism. It would be an understatement to say that there is a significant gap between the ancient precepts of modesty and the luxury liners operating today. However, this is where things start to become really interesting. A significant number of the people who follow these pastors are struggling to make ends meet, while they themselves live lifestyles of unfathomable luxury. When attending church, the typical attendee is not jetting off to far-flung places or lazing in mansions that cost several millions of dollars. They have occupations that have a 9-to-5 schedule. They have to pay their mortgages, and they often have trouble putting food on the table. A significant contrast exists between the two, to say the least. It would be remiss of us to overlook Pastor Paul Adefarasin, who has a net worth of $50 million. There is a high probability that this Nigerian preacher's garage is mistaken for a dealership for luxury automobiles. When it comes to his extravagant way of living, high-end automobiles are merely the top of the iceberg. The homes that he owns are the stuff of real estate dreams, and they demonstrate how far the gospel of prosperity can carry you. Furthermore, Pastor Enoch Adejare, who has a net worth of $110 million, is another individual. In addition to owning a single private jet, this man of God also possesses two of them. His global ministry is made possible by these flying marvels, which enable him to disseminate his message to a significantly wider audience. At the same time, however, they bring up problems regarding the actual expense of spreading the word. In spite of the fact that Pastor Adeboye's riches may appear to be astonishing, it is insignificant when compared to the genuine titans of the prosperity gospel. There are a group of preachers who are extremely exclusive and whose wealth has reached 10 figures with them. These religious behemoths have carried their ministries to heights that have never been seen before, constructing empires that go well beyond the confines of the pulpit. Start with Pastor Valdemiro Santiago, who established the World Church of God's Power in Brazil. He is the founder of the church. Santiago has built a media empire by tapping into his inspirational preaching style, which has resulted in him having a net worth of $600 million. His message of prosperity gospel is broadcast on television, radio, and many online platforms, reaching millions of people and transforming his devoted followers into a wealthy audience. But when compared to Pastor Alf Lukau of South Africa, Santiago's fortune appears to be little more than a small amount of cash. The staggering sum of $1 billion has been acquired by Lukau through his Alleluia Ministries International organization. Not only does this preacher speak about prosperity, but he also lives what he preaches. Lukau's business endeavors include real estate, broadcast media, and even charitable endeavors, and he manages to keep a global following across all of these endeavors. Edir Macedo, who has an astounding net worth of $1.5 billion, maintains his position at the pinnacle of this exclusive hierarchy. It's not just that Macedo is a pastor, he's also a media baron. As the person who established the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God, he is responsible for establishing one of the most significant evangelical movements on a global scale. However, his true authority stems from the fact that he owns Record TV, which is the third largest television network in Brazil. What an excellent way to get the word out. A mastery of the art of diversification has been achieved by these preachers. They do not merely rely on donations and tithes to support themselves. Among other things, they have established publishing firms, constructed universities, and even made investments in shopping malls. It is almost as if they have transformed the idea of God's economy into a prosperous business that is listed on the Fortune 500. The rise of these preachers who are worth billions of dollars is reflective of a larger trend in contemporary Christianity. They have tapped into a powerful combination of elements, including spirituality, business acumen, and media savvy. Millions of people are moved by their words of prosperity and heavenly favor, which has resulted in the formation of a devoted following that has contributed to their financial success. On the other hand, that comes with a great deal of scrutiny. There is a lot of criticism directed toward these preachers because of their extravagant lifestyles and business methods. There are many who believe that their enormous wealth runs counter to the teachings of traditional Christianity, which emphasize the need of humility and service. Their supporters, on the other hand, see their accomplishments as evidence of God's favor and the prudent management of resources. Extending beyond the sphere of the spiritual, these megapastors have an effect that is substantial. They have a large amount of political weight in certain countries, which allows them to shape both public opinion and policies. It is common for their churches to serve as social hubs, offering a variety of services ranging from education to healthcare, so filling the voids that are left by the institutions of the government. Possibly the most amazing aspect of these pastoral empires is the size of their territories. Some of these religious leaders have amassed wealth that is greater than the gross domestic product of countries of a smaller size. As a sharp reminder of the economic power that religious institutions possess in the 21st century, this event is worth mentioning. The teachings of these preachers are coming up against increasing hostility even as they develop empires that match those of small nations. Is it true that humble Christian principles may coexist with extravagant lifestyles, such as mansions and private jets? The fundamentals of contemporary Christianity are being shaken to their very core as a result of the conflict between traditional faith and prosperity preaching. The theory known as the prosperity gospel, which asserts that a person's health and financial success are signs of divine favor, is at the center of this debate. Despite the fact that this belief system has helped a great number of pastors achieve inconceivable wealth, it has also been subjected to severe criticism. It is argued by critics that it is a perilous perversion of Christian beliefs, which takes advantage of believers who are susceptible for the purpose of personal gain. On the other hand, proponents assert that it gives believers the ability to pray for God's blessings in every facet of their lives, including their financial situation. In the eyes of the general people, the extravagant lifestyles of these extremely wealthy pastors have become a source of indignation. There is a striking contrast between the low means of many members of Kenneth Copeland's church and the expansive mansions and fleet of private aircraft that Kenneth Copeland owns. Even among his most loyal fans, the $10.5 million Houston estate that Joel Osteen owns has caused many followers to raise their heads. Several people have questioned whether or not these pastors are serving God or mammon as a result of these displays of wealth. Benny Hinn's ministry was the subject of an investigation by the United States Senate Finance Committee in 2007, which was the moment when the controversy reached its climax. A number of televangelists' financial practices were called into question during the investigation, particularly their use of tax-exempt donations for their own personal luxury. This investigation shined light on the dark world of megachurch finances, demonstrating a concerning lack of openness and accountability, despite the fact that it was conducted. What is actually striking is the discrepancy between the wealth of these pastors and the financial hardships of the people who attend their congregations. Many of the people who follow prosperity preachers have a difficult time paying their bills and putting food on the table, while the preachers themselves travel the world on private aircraft. The striking contrast between the two has resulted in charges of exploitation and manipulation, with opponents suggesting that these pastors are exploiting the hopes and desires of those who are susceptible. There are significant ethical repercussions that come with the accumulation of material prosperity. How is it possible for religious leaders to rationalize amassing fortunes while simultaneously preaching words of generosity and selflessness? While there are those who believe that their success is evidence of God's favor, there are others who believe that it is a violation of fundamental Christian principles. Conversations about the obligations of spiritual leaders and the role that money plays in religion have been sparked by this topic, which has sparked significant conversations. Despite the criticism that has surrounded these wealthy preachers, their influence has not reduced, which is an interesting development. Many continue to increase their money and broaden their influence in spite of the scrutiny and criticism they receive from the public. This resiliency is indicative of a support network that is highly committed and unwavering in their determination to believe in the prosperity message. The controversy surrounding the practice of preaching prosperity has even made its way into the realm of politics. In many nations, these affluent pastors possess a tremendous amount of power, which allows them to shape public policy and opinion. They have political clout as a result of their economic dominance, which raises problems regarding the separation of church and state. Particularly shocking is the fact that some preachers of prosperity have started to question the validity of their own beliefs. A public expression of remorse was made by Benny Hinn, who has been a poster child for the prosperity movement for a long time, about his previous emphasis on the prosperity gospel. This was a shocking reversal given the fact that this ideology had been at the center of his ministry for decades. He recognized that it had caused harm to a great number of people. The existing discussion has been given a new facet as a result of this unexpected turn of events. What implications does this have for the future of this contentious concept, given that even notable prosperity preachers are rethinking their position? In the future, will there be a change away from materialism in the teachings of religious institutions? Or will the pull of wealth and success continue to attract participants? These wealthy preachers are not going to back down from their position as the discussion continues. Despite the fact that they preach about Jesus, they argue that their good fortune is a proof that God is favoring them. However, how can they justify living like kings? Maybe the answers will take you by surprise. A significant number of these wealthy preachers defend their wealth by referring to biblical scriptures that stress blessings and prosperity. Their interpretation of these words is that they are divinely sanctioning their financial success, and they argue that God desires for His faithful slaves to flourish, in spite of the fact that it has caused some people in more orthodox religious circles to raise their eyebrows. This viewpoint has gained popularity among their adherents. The concept of being blessed to be a blessing is frequently utilized by these preachers in order to provide an explanation for their opulent lifestyles. Their argument is that because of their wealth, they are able to make a constructive contribution to society and provide substantial support to philanthropic projects around the world. The way they express themselves is as follows. Look, we're not just hoarding this money for ourselves. We're using it to do the work that God has for us. Consider the case of Kenneth Copeland, for example. As a result of his expansive mansions and private aircraft, he has earned the reputation of being a poster child for the prosperity gospel. Copeland asserts that his riches enables him to communicate with a greater number of people, thereby effectually spreading the word of God at a rate that is significantly faster than anything a commercial airplane could possibly achieve. This is a rationale that is met with both nods of agreement and eye rolls of skepticism from those attending. In addition to being a prominent figure in the realm of prosperity preaching, Joel Osteen frequently discusses the fact that God desires for his followers to be wealthy in all aspects of life, including their financial situation. Rather than merely being a possibility, he preaches that believers should anticipate achieving financial success in their lives. This is a message that strikes a chord with many people, providing individuals who are struggling to make ends meet with reason to have hope and ambition. However, this is where things start to become really interesting. A few of these wealthy pastors are actively involved in performing humanitarian activities and making contributions to the community. The fact that they have made these efforts is evidence that they are dedicated to making positive use of the resources they have. That is their method of expressing the idea that they are not just teaching about blessings, but that they are also sharing them with others. This approach to money and faith, on the other hand, stands in stark contrast to the conventional religious teachings that emphasize respect for others and separation from material existence. A significant number of critics contend that Jesus himself had a life of abject poverty and instructed his disciples to place a higher value on spiritual wealth than material assets. An extensive debate has been started as a result of the disparity between the extravagant lifestyles of these pastors and the humble example that religious luminaries of the past have set. The controversy that has surrounded these affluent religious leaders has brought up some questions that are certainly thought-provoking regarding the function of money in the realms of religion and meditation. Is it possible to serve God in a true manner while also amassing wealth for oneself? What is the relationship between the quest of financial success and the teachings that Jesus imparted? These are the kinds of questions that continue to generate passionate debates, and debates that continue to split religious communities. It is amusing to note that not all preachers of wealth are remaining steadfast in their beliefs. After having a change of heart, Benny Hinn, who was previously a prominent player in the prosperity gospel movement, has changed his mind. This surprise turn has brought a new dimension to the continuing discussion, leaving many people wondering if more affluent pastors could follow suit. He was the one who openly voiced sorrow about his previous emphasis on the prosperity gospel, admitting that it hurts many people. Within the realm of religion, the ethical repercussions of the teachings of the prosperity gospel continue to be a matter of intense interest. It is seen by some to be exploitative since it preys on the hopes and dreams of believers who are weak. There are many who believe that it is empowering and that it inspires people to strive for achievement in all aspects of their lives. It is a reflection of larger cultural issues surrounding money, spirituality, and the obligations of religious leaders that this split exists. By combining religious practice with commercial enterprise, the wealthiest pastors in the world have altered modern religion. Their empires extend across multiple continents and impact millions of people through the use of media networks and megachurches. The adherents of this group believe that their prosperity is evidence of divine favor, while the critics contend that they have strayed from the humble roots of Christianity. With an eye toward the future, concerns have been raised regarding the viability of these pastoral empires going forward. Is it possible that a fall in their influence will occur as a result of increased scrutiny and shifting views toward wealth in the religious community? Or will their astute combination of spirituality and business continue to flourish in this world that is constantly evolving? It is still a contested subject, subject because the junction of faith and finance presents a challenge to our concept of religious leadership and the ideals that are held by spiritual communities. It is highly possible that the activities of these wealthy pastors will have a significant impact on the future of organized religion for many years to come as they navigate the complexity of contemporary public opinion and ethical dilemmas. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments section.